What's up, guys, and welcome back for another episode of Chat with Will. I'm super grateful and excited to be connecting with you guys all over the world on this platform. I'm with co-host Dr. Edwin Adams. How you doing, Edwin? How's everything going? Tell us the good news, first of all. Tell us the good news that we were all wondering about from last week's show.
Well, the good news is I think we are prepared this time for the next hurricane. So It is right off the coast, barreling up to Louisiana again. So, man, I am ready for hurricane season to be over.
That wasn't the good news I was talking about. Last week, we were talking about how you were using all these different breath techniques during a very stressful week, and you weren't sure of the outcome, and you got the outcome, right? You got to share.
I got the outcome, man. I breathed into opportunity and opportunity came back to me. I got the promotion that I have worked on my entire life for 27 years. I got it. And if it were not for the breathing techniques, I don't think I would have survived. It was that stressful. So way to go, Will. You're changing lives right here in conversation and communion with me. So thank you, brother.
How do you think that just connecting with your breath or doing the breathing exercises, how do you think they made a difference?
I think it was really awareness, Will, that the monkey brain beliefs and thoughts that were creeping up in my head, breath grounded me in a truth of right now, because my brain was going back to past emotions and experiences and forecasting what ifs and whens and hows. And breath just brings you right back to the only moment we truly have, which is the one we're standing in any given moment. And that is where peace, I think, is. It's not forward looking or backward looking. It's where we are right now. And just showed me that my truth and my well-being and my tomorrow is grounded in right now, and breath made that possible, I think. And it shapes a reality. Really, it shapes a real reality. Well, that's a double whatever, but a true reality of who we are and who we can be in any given moment. And that's what I needed.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, and I think that's very common for people to just be in a stressful situation, if it's for a job promotion, or maybe if it's for something that's not necessarily as positive, just, stressful times at home, stressful times at work, especially with all the craziness going on. It tends to put us in our monkey brain, and when we say monkey brain, all that is just that constant chatter. What if this, or what about that? And what's going on here, of just trying to almost look for the tiger that's around the corner when there's no tiger around the corner. Everything is okay. And we just have to surrender into that moment. But it's not easy. It happens to me, it happens to you, it happens to all of us when something is, I guess, not necessarily going our way or triggering us in some way. That's when our monkey brain brings us into the past or brings us into the anxieties of the future. And that's why breath has been so powerful for me. And it's cool to start hearing, you feeling a lot of the benefits, and all the other people that we're working with seeing some benefits of just being more present. Because, all the mystics, all the monks, all the religious leaders, they talk about the power of being present, the power of being present. Anything that you're doing or anything that you care about, the more present you are mentally, physically, emotionally, with all of your senses, not only the better you'll perform, but the more you'll get out of that situation, and the better you'll feel about that situation, the more you can get past the monkey brain, get past the mental chatter, and just come into the right now. And that's why the breath is so awesome, because each breath is this moment, kind of like a heartbeat. The last breath and the last heartbeat was earlier, and the next one is the future. So just to put your attention and your focus, because that's one of the only things that we do have control over is, what we think, feel, and do. And it starts by where we put our attention and where we put our focus. And when we catch ourselves in that monkey brain, in that chatter, in that stress, where we know these thoughts are just maybe jumping us in fear or not serving us, that's when we can just stop. Sit down for a second if you need to, but just stop, go outside if it's even better, and just take some nice, big, full, deep breaths. And that's just so good to bring you back into the moment. Let that chatter of dust settle so you can get a clear idea of what's going on in the moment to know where to step next.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you say about catching yourself. I think that is something I was guilty of for a very long time, Will, was letting the roller coaster ride take me where it wanted to go. And I was just a passenger on that emotional train. And man, the older I've become, the longer the roller coaster ride was. So something that would derail me, to keep with the metaphor, would continue to derail me for 2 or 3 days until I could kind of get myself back out of it. But simply the awareness that I have a tool when I get that feeling of, uh-oh, the roller coaster's about to go, I can pause, go and do an exercise that brings me back to some semblance of control that gives me peace back within a time span of 10 or 15 minutes rather than 3 days of wasted productivity. It's amazing the satisfaction I feel now in knowing that I have control with the use of a tool that can redirect an emotional roller coaster very successfully and very quickly. But it's taken some training. You're right. It's not easy. And I think my expectations were, Will, when I started, okay, if I just do my breathing, all those thoughts will go away and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Not really.
No, like the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's like, it's like hitting a free throw. Every time that you do get that free throw in, you get better at getting it in again, and it's just that awareness of every time that you can notice yourself getting derailed. That is like that mental deadlift or that mental push-up that strengthens your awareness inside your brain because you just completed one repetition. Now, if you catch yourself 10 times a day of just being unpresent and coming back to that present moment of just keep following that repetitions, your ability to stay focused and put your attention on the things that you care about just becomes so much more stronger and so much more powerful, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to share something with you. You can't tell anyone else, especially my wife. But man, this past weekend we were working outside, kind of prepping things for the hurricane and setting some things up. And she asked me just very sincerely, "Hey, hun, we need to cut back the bushes from the house." And I don't know why it set me off. I think I was so in the zone of knowing what I needed to get done. I felt that feeling coming up like, really? Seriously? I am working hard getting the house ready for a hurricane and you want me to cut some bush? What? And I just, I caught myself. I was about to go down that roller coaster wheel and it was not going to end well for the relationship, right? So,
Yeah.
it was just, let me go walk in the garage real quick and just breathe.
That moment. Yep.
Breathe into the moment and go, come on, man, you're about to lose control for no reason. This is ridiculous that you're being a little, what about this. So get over it and use breath as a tool. 3 minutes, I was back out there cutting the bushes away from the house.
Yeah. That's pretty funny how it works, but it's like, as soon as we notice that trigger going off, that is the time where we have to stop and just take control of it. Because our breath, the way that we're breathing, is constantly tuning our nervous system, tuning our autonomic nervous system and telling us how to feel and what to think. So by taking control over our breath, we're going to take control over our system and the way that we're feeling. But the first step is just the awareness of noticing when we are triggered. And, I know for me, for example, it's almost challenging even when I become aware of a trigger, like, okay, that just triggered me, to still not go down that path, because those strong chemical reactions almost feel good. And they're almost addictive in that moment to react into anger or to react into spite or whatever you want. But to notice like, okay, that's going to feel good right now, but it's just going to cause more problems and more stress. And then to just stop, breathe into that present moment, surrender what's going on. And then that's when we're going to feel the best and make our best decisions. And just a little bit better of a decision 2 or 3 times a day can make a huge impact over 6 months, over 12 months to, maybe a happy marriage or a divorce over 10 years,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, consider I have been behaving this way, reacting to emotions this way for my entire life. That's 50 years on this planet of reacting the same way. And here you come into my world and disrupt my comfort zone a little bit and show me a different way to behave. So there's some hardwiring in there that, yeah, I don't know if feel good is the right word, but it's a default that when the reaction comes, I'm supposed to go do X, Y, and Z. I'm supposed to overreact. I'm supposed to have this monkey brain for 3 days. I'm just going to do it. That's what I do. Well, no, I have an opportunity to change that. And that's been really interesting to feel the adaptation, breathe into the new experience, and try to create a new habit so that I can perform better moving forward with not only my wife, but the people in my network, the people at work. It has an overflow effect across multiple domains of my world. And it's been really impactful, particularly at work.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Anywhere that you have to perform, you're always going to do better when you're present. And especially not only performance, but in relationships, because relationships, I wouldn't say is all about performance, but it's more of a communication and an understanding, and the more present you are, the more you can understand the other person and the more clearly you can communicate. But it's like, when we do notice that trigger going off, it triggers that monkey brain response of just constantly chatter. So then, like you said, when we go into the next thing, instead of having our full presence doing that next thing as best as we can, we're thinking about what this person said or, something that bothered you. And then all of a sudden, you're not only making that problem worse, but that activity that you're supposed to care about or that you're trying to do, you're going to be doing worse. So, and it's like, I never said that it was easy, but the more you do it, the better you get. And you just start getting really good at managing yourself, being aware of as soon as that trigger does happen and getting ahead of the chemical reactions and then stopping, breathing, and then just putting your attention, like letting it go, breathing it out, just, let that go, let that out. And then just going back to focusing on whatever you're doing in that moment.
Yeah, I appreciate what you say about the lag time of the chemical reactions happening in our body. I mean, from a physiological perspective, there's an immediate hit of epinephrine, that fight or flight, which is really quick. But then, it can take, up to a few hours for all those reactions to play out from a spike in epinephrine and a fight or flight response like that. So breath work is important not only in mitigating that spike in your initial reaction, but it's also will help you smooth out those chemical reactions over the next few hours, which is also important. So breath continues to be a tool throughout, several hours after being hit with an emotional response.
For sure. And one thing that I want to make clear is when something does happen, like say if you're driving a car and some crazy accident just happens in front of you and you jerk and you react to save yourself from that situation, you're gonna feel that chemical reaction at first, and that's okay. But what matters is how you react to it after that, and the Stoics talk about this a lot. Like, nobody is going to just not react if someone spits in their face, like they're going to feel something come up. But the power and the strength of the presence is noticing that it come up, and before the explosion happens, to take it, stop it, and then change how you react in a smoother, more calm, more efficient way. But it doesn't matter how good you get, there's going to be that initial feeling that comes up, that initial chemical reaction. But it's just how we react towards that second step is where all the gold is and all the importance is. And that's where you can be aware and then notice, breathe, let it go, and then just keep getting back to what you're meant here to do.
Well, yeah. And you know, Will, I spend a lot of time in my coaching business working with people on communication. And, you know, I've had to incorporate some breathing techniques into that because I think, again, as I fell prey to, and most people fall prey to, you're used to the same pattern of response to a stimulus, like someone speaking to you, spitting on you, whatever it is, you have an automatic response to that, but no mitigation strategy to cut that off. And, you know, when you're working with coaching clients, communication is probably 70% of most people's problem. All right. So it reminds me of one of my favorite books to use in counseling patients. Clients is Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements. And two of those agreements are, number one, be impeccable with your word, meaning what you speak, and breathing can help you think before you speak. And then the other one is don't make assumptions, which assumptions create a lot of problems. Well, if you're in your monkey brain thinking all these fake news and different thoughts in your mind, you can quickly make an assumption that can derail you. But breath can really bring you back to a present moment where impeccability and assumptions matter. So it's pretty incredible.
That's all assumptions and expectations are just lack of presence. You know, and I'll say it right here, all assumptions and all expectations just hold you back from one, clarity, and two, just being your best self. Like anytime that you catch yourself, like even if it's a lot of times a good expectation of when you're going into something and you're expecting it to be like this, and this person has to, you know, you're expecting this person to act like this and this to be real, like that's setting you up for disappointment. That's setting you up for frustration. That's setting you up for anxiety, as opposed to just doing your best in each moment and putting that left foot in front of the right as best as you can, as smooth as you can, and then dealing with whatever cards that we're dealt the best we can. Like we're gonna be okay. And if not, we'll get through it. We'll get stronger. And worst case scenario, we're getting buried under the ground and who knows after that, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, we're gonna be okay. You know, like it's not gonna be as bad as what we're thinking of it, you know? And I know Tim Ferriss has that habit that he does a lot that's pretty interesting. Anytime something happens, he just stops and said, all right, let's be real. What is the actual worst thing that could go down right now? And 99% of the time, it's not as bad as what our monkey brain is making it seem.
Yeah, it doesn't include death.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, and even death, I hear it's not so bad.
Who came back and told you that? It is close to Halloween, Will.
Okay, so actually, like more speaking from Zach Bush, like Zach Bush worked for a long time in the places of the hospital where people die. And like he has some amazing experiences because like his job was essentially when people are dying to bring them back to life, you know, and that's supposed to be like a real success is, you know, when someone heart stopped and they stop breathing and you do all these procedures and you bring them back to life. And he said pretty much every single time they were like, why did you do that? You know, like afterwards of that feeling of dying is like this feeling of release to where like for the first time, like we're living on this planet feeling a lot more lonely than we think because we're seeing so many things in separation of like I'm separate from all the people around me and all the life around me, when in actuality we're all in this together, you know. And Zach said after talking to so many people from dying and coming back, it feels like they were just a part of something and they were just loved more than like they've ever felt in their whole life. And that feeling of loneliness and stress just goes away. So, I mean, even death, it honestly sounds like a pretty good deal.
Well, is that going to be your next tattoo? DNR.
No.
Do not resuscitate.
No, no, no. I mean, I still think I got a lot of work left to do on here. So please resuscitate.
Fair enough. Well, Will, we've got a lot of people on the line today. So I'm curious, any of you guys have any questions for us? We are welcome. We welcome questions. Please put them in the Q&A down below. Great. Thank you, Dan. So Will, how do you remain calm after back-to-back Zoom calls all afternoon? The digital presence is so two-dimensional. What do you think about that?
He's so right, because what I notice personally, and a lot of people that I talk to as well, the more time my face is in a screen, talking on Zoom or posting on Instagram or posting on YouTube, or like the more time my face is in a screen, the more my monkey brain is going off. And the more I do feel overwhelmed and the more I do feel stressed, the more time that I'm looking at this screen. So that's why I take time away. Like I put my phone on airplane mode probably 10 times a day, like just every time I'm feeling that way, I'll just put my phone on airplane mode and just be away from it for 30 minutes to 60 minutes. And then another thing that I like to do that makes a really huge impact that helps is, like, if I want to be sleeping by 10, I try to put my phone on airplane mode at 8 p.m. This doesn't always happen, but definitely by 9 p.m. And if not 9 p.m., definitely by 9:30. You know what I mean? But I just do my best to, as early as possible, 2 hours is always the goal, to just turn my phone on airplane mode and just keep my head away from a screen. And I always feel the best when I do about 12 hours a day. So if I turn my phone on airplane mode at 9 p.m., I'll feel the best when I wait at least till 9 a.m. to turn it back off airplane mode. And just taking breaks away from the screen, especially the phone, can be extremely powerful for just letting that dust settle so you can be into that present moment. So then when I do have to jump on these screens, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to connect with people all over the world and be able to talk and to listen and to communicate, I can be my best, so I'm showing up clear-headed, not thinking about what's going on earlier, not thinking about what's going on later, because I swear when I put that phone on airplane mode for the first 30, 45, 60 minutes, my mind's going, that dust is settling. And then I get about 30 minutes of just relaxation. And then all of a sudden I start to get my best ideas. Once you're getting past the monkey brain and you can be in stillness or just silence for a long time, that's when all of your greatest ideas start coming up. And that's just helped me to really create everything I'm creating now.
Yeah, great points, Will. Dan, I feel for you, my friend. I have been at home working for 8 months now, and the transition to the virtual meeting world happened so suddenly. There was no adaptation. There were no best practices. So unfortunately, the company is starting to recognize the untoward effects that this two-dimensional meetings space back to back, like you said, is creating with employees. So we've recently come together and agreed on 4 things. So I want to share those with you. Is number 1, block off time in your calendar where nobody can place a meeting. All right. So buy back your time as far as work-life balance, get some time back. The second thing is, if you're in a Zoom call and you're leading the meeting, give people some time back. Instead of it being an hour meeting from 2 to 3, for instance, in your calendar, make it 2 to 3 or 2 to 2:37. Give them some time back. Really be efficient with the time that you spend on Zoom. The third is, you don't have to use Zoom anymore. Sometimes a telephone call is good enough. Sometimes an email is good enough. So really discern, and this goes into number 4, do we really need to meet face-to-face on Zoom, or can this information be transacted a different way, all in an effort to reduce this virtual exhaustion and virtual anxiety that this two-dimensional world is creating. So Dan, I hope that helps a little bit.
Dan, and I got one more for you. If they're back to back and you're going all day, I would try what Edwin calls some will granting. I like that term a lot, but you know, every 45 minutes or in between a meeting, even if it's just 2 minutes, even if it's just 3 minutes, just walk outside, walk out the front door, walk out the back door, and just take in 10 breaths, take in 25 breaths, sit down for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and just look at a tree and breathe at a tree. And what can be extremely powerful is something I learned from Aaron Alexander a lot, is when we're looking at these screens and when we're looking at anything that is actually close to us, the way that our eyes dial in to clarify something close is much like a muscle flexing. So to go outside and to look at the sky where you're outside of 4 walls, but you're able to actually look far in the distance, that's going to actually relax the tension in your eyes, which can relax the tension in your brain, which can relax your nervous system, which can help you feel really good. So yeah, just as often as you can, like what I do that most people probably thinks is weird is I just pee outside. So every time I have to pee, and I'm constantly drinking water, which is around the perfect time, every 45 to 60 minutes, I just walk outside and piss on a bush, you know, and that just gets me outside. It gets me breathing in some fresh air, and then I can look at the sky so my eyes can relax. And, you know, twisting that spine a little bit is another awesome trick to just get that blood flow moving, because I think 90% of the oxygen or blood going to our brain is based on spinal movement. So just to be able to turn that spine can get that fresh stagnation going inside your brain, so you're going to feel a lot better. So yeah, I like those tips Edwin gave you. And then plus get outside, piss outside, breathe some fresh air, and get that spine twisting and moving.
Now, Will, you cannot go pee on the cotton candy cherry tree. That's going to mess up the flavor totally. So stay away from the cherry tree, please.
No, it's actually the banana. So, all right. So if you live in the South, you got to plant a banana plant. And the more you can pee on a banana plant, the more bananas and faster that plant will grow. Sounds crazy, but bananas love nitrogen, which is kind of like fertilizer. Pee is nitrogen, which is kind of like fertilizer. So if you have fruit trees, they do like the pee. It's kind of weird.
Okay, well, whatever you say,
good.
Whatever you say,
there's no waste in nature. There's no waste in nature.
Fair enough. All right, Will, we got another one. Another question
We got some questions going on. Yeah, guys, if you guys have any questions, put them in the comments below. Put it in the chat room. If you're live or if you're watching on YouTube, I will go back and answer all these questions. So whatever questions you got, bring them to me.
All right. David's asking, this is David from California. I'm doing Noom to lose weight. How can a breathing regimen support weight loss? What a great question.
Ooh, that is super cool. I actually read in that book now this is something that I actually just learned, so I'm not super clear on it, but I read in that book from Breath from James Nestor that actually most of the weight we lose is from dispelling of carbon dioxide, is actually of that breathing, you know. And I've actually read and heard about a lot of stuff from Wim Hof, like when you're doing that deep belly breathing and expelling so much of that carbon dioxide, that is, they've actually found is a huge percentage of how we actually shed fat and how we actually do lose weight. Is by, like, a huge percent of it is by just breathing heavy. So by doing the things, if it's the Wim Hof breathing or breathing exercises, that will help you lose weight. But if losing weight is your goal, there's so many more effective ways to do it, like fasting and cutting out processed foods and just getting out and moving. Moving is breathing as well. So the more that you can get out and move, ride your bike, go for a swim, go for a walk, keeping that mouth closed with all of it as much as you possibly can, I think not only the better you're going to feel, but the more weight that you're going to lose. But yeah, the best weight loss tricks that I can give you is, you know, really cut out obviously the sugar, the flour, the bread, the dairy, focus on fruits, vegetables, organic food, you know, whole foods, and just move. Get outside and move that body. And another little super trick that a lot of people don't know about is that I talk about in a lot of some nutrition stuff I have coming up. But is actually your eating window. The smaller your eating window is, not only the more weight you'll lose, but the longer you'll live and the better your body will be at using fat as energy. So what I mean by eating window, so if you wake up at 7 a.m. and if you have that first meal at 7:30 and you go to bed at 9 and you have that last meal at 8:30, your eating window is huge. So the more you can minimize that window to have all of your calories in a short amount of time, like if you have your first calories at 12 to 3 p.m. and your last calories at 6 to 7 p.m., that the healthier you will be, the better your body will be at using fat as energy. And I know that sounds kind of difficult at first, like, whoa, I'm only going to eat for 3-4 hours a day. That's crazy, Will. But your body adapts really quick. So for example, if you're used to eating at 8 a.m. every morning, just push it back to 8:30. And then do that for a couple of days, then push it back to 9 o'clock. Do that for and your body will adjust really quick. And if you keep pushing that comfort zone, I guess, when you start to get hungry, waiting another 30 minutes to 60 minutes, that feeling of hunger, change the relationship to it's not this awful thing, but that's your body cleaning. That is your body literally cleaning and healing is when you feel that feeling of hunger. So push that back 30 minutes to an hour every day. And then eventually that window, it'll be 11, 12, 1 o'clock, and you won't be hungry because you're only hungry at 7 a.m. because you're used to eating at 7 a.m.
Fair enough. And breathing is just such a good strategy to break the response to the hunger pains. If it's going to send you down a roller coaster that you have to make bad choices or you need to go to the pantry and you're going to grab something new, before you go do that, breathe.
Yeah. Or and what I like to do is I try not to bring that stuff into my pantry. So like it's one thing if you're at someone else's place or you're going out to eat, celebrating with other people, eat bad food. I eat bad food all the time, but I try to not have it available for me in my kitchen or in my bathroom, in my kitchen or in my pantry at any time, not my bathroom, but so I try not to have it available. So I can't just walk in and grab a cookie or walk in and grab sugar. But if I really want to have to go out and get it, and I think that just makes me a lot more less likely to have it. And I know the difference between needing it and wanting it, but like I said, the more you fast, the more that you're in control over your hunger. And it's just like repetitions. Like if you train yourself every time you get a little bit hungry that you have to snack, you'll have to be constantly snacking. But if you feel like you're a little hungry and you just know that you're okay, your body's just healing, and that you could really go 30 days without eating and you'll probably end up just healthier, like you'll be okay. So yeah.
Awesome. I know some people are having to drop off due to other obligations. Great. Glad you guys were here. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who are still here, please ask any questions. Will, I know intermittent fasting helps train some people to deal with hunger a little bit better. So there's longer spans of time where you might actually feel hungry, but you're obligated not to respond to it. Breathwork helps through that process as well, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, 100%. But what's going to help that more is just practicing it, is just pushing that. Like, because sometimes after a 30-minute Wim Hof session, I'm hungry, because that takes a lot of calories, and that's okay because you're burning so many calories. You're like a furnace. You just expelled so much of that energy out, and that's okay. Like being hungry is not a bad feeling. It's just your perception of being hungry that makes it seem like it's bad. And that's what fasting really changed, a big thing for me, because before I did that 8-day fast a few years ago, every time that I got hungry, I got upset. Every time I got hungry, I got really angry because it reminded me of being poor and hungry when I was a kid. And it was just a feeling that I hated. And, and it was just my perception of that feeling. But then when I did that fast for 8 days, my whole relationship with hunger completely changed to where now it's like that feeling of hunger is like this feeling of lightness. Like I feel good mentally because I'm in control of that and because I've practiced that. The more you can be hungry, the less you'll be hungry, and then you'll get really good at just not letting it bother you. So you don't have to react to where it's not controlling, like, oh my God, I have to eat right now. But that feeling of hunger is like, oh yeah, I'm getting healthier. Oh yeah, I'm cleaning right now. Like my body's using all of its extra resources on cleaning and repairing and detoxifying. We must know that our body gets most of its work done on an empty stomach. Pretty much all of its cleaning, all of its repairing, all of that good stuff is done on an empty stomach. So when you do feel that little grumble in your stomach, that's probably your body detoxifying some toxins and digesting them, which is a good thing.
So, Will, I know you've had quite a few people right now go through your new breath course, Breath 101. What's some feedback you're getting from them on any transformational moments that they might be having?
Dude, it's so cool, man. Like I can't describe how good it feels to just be a part of something to one, like I built this course off a lot of the experiences and insights I gained from a lot of struggle and a lot of hard times that I went through that gained me a lot of these insights, that devoted so much of my time to figuring these things out, and to be able to create something that now people are going through and getting a lot of value from and like feeling really good from. Nothing feels better, Edwin. Like it feels really cool to have, like people in there who've been struggling with, high blood pressure, anxiety, stress, asthma, to where they're like, I feel so good. I feel so much better than I've felt in so long. We're getting comments and messages now to where like they just feel more in control over their stress, to where they're not getting pushed left and right by all the circumstances of their life, but they're taking the steps forward that they want to take in the directions that they want to go. It's, I think one of the best analogies is it feels like going from in the passenger seat of your life to the driver's seat of your life and clarifying exactly where you want to go, and exactly when to turn.
Awesome. Got a question coming in from our friend Braden. He says, I like the idea of fasting. Would it be okay to just do for a couple of days, or would it be best to work up to fasting?
I would consider anything over 12 hours a fast, so you can start working with 12 hours, and 12 hours is not hard. I feel like every single person, unless you're some sort of special athlete that has to eat a ridiculous amount of meals a day, every single person should try to make 12 hours a day. That's if you have dinner at 8 p.m., just not having breakfast till after 8 p.m. That's not that difficult, and that's a fast. And then you could keep pushing that to 15 hours, to 16 hours, to 17 hours, all the way up to a 24-hour fast if you want, or a 3-day fast. But I would say once you start doing some extended fast, it is recommended to just make sure you're okay. Like go check in with your doctor to make sure you don't have any health issues. But yeah, like if you're young, if you're super like under 20, you probably don't need much more than a 1-day fast unless you're extremely overweight or like really sick with something. But yeah, like you can start with 12 hours and build your way up depending on what you feel good with and what you feel like you need.
Yeah, I guess the question is, isn't the benefit of fasting achieved really in that window of 16 to 18 hours? Is that where the maximum benefits are found for typical fasters?
I mean, I don't know anything about maximum benefits over 12. There's a lot of benefits. Like 13 hours is better than 12, and 14 hours is better than 13.
Right.
But 24 hours is better than 16. Like if you fast for 3 days, it's known to actually rebuild your whole entire immune system.
Well, sure. But if people are practicing fasting on a regular basis, a 24-hour fast is not going to work for them. They'll starve to death. So I guess if you're a routine faster, which a lot of health advocates say you need to fast most days of the week, like 5 out of 7 days. So your benefit is found in that 18-hour range. Shoot for 18 hours and compress your eating window. I think for young people, particularly athletes, when you compress the eating window, isn't it more difficult to get in all the calories you need to like maintain musculature and performance?
Yeah. So there's two things on that is like one, well, first of all, every single person should be able to make 24 hours. Almost every single person. If you can't go 24, and I said this to somebody earlier today, if you can't go 24 hours without eating, you have some mental instability. To
That's
where,
eating, not drinking. You can drink
yeah,
during
yeah,
the fast.
yeah, you should be drinking as much water as you can during these fasts. But I mean, unless you're extremely, extremely sick and you're needing a doctor to do anything, pretty much everybody should, be able to do 24 hours without eating and be okay. Like you're not going to die. Like it's only going to make you healthier. But the hardest thing is if you are an athlete, like if you are trying to gain weight, if you are trying to gain muscle and gain strength, fasting is extremely difficult. And like for me, for example, I'm now getting into training where I'm having to have so much more calories, and I'm fasting less. But that's a very, very small percentage of people, and for people who are professional athletes who are trying to gain a bunch of muscle or trying to gain a bunch of strength, that's a very small percentage of people. And even then, they're probably going to need more fasting when their career is over, to help replenish all of that overeating. But the less food that we eat, the longer we're going to live. The less food that we consume, the healthier we will be. Like 18 hours is a nice number that is given to make it simple and make sense, but 19 hours is good too. 17 hours is fine too. Do what works for you, and just know that the less food that you consume, the healthier you're going to be, and most likely the longer you're going to live.
So fasting, could you equate that to a tool like breathing? That the process of fasting is a centering process. It makes you more self-aware. It helps. Well, it just helps you overall, just like
Yeah.
breath does.
Yeah. In a lot of the same ways as breath, but I wouldn't say it's the same thing, because it does feel, or it feels a lot different to me. That's for sure. It's like breath feels like this centering, coming into this present moment to clarify what's going on, and to understanding myself and my environment and what I need to do in that situation. But fasting is more of like a cleaning and a building of mental stability and a building of mental strength, and probably one of the most physically healthy things that we could do for ourselves, because it's like we're so hooked on dopamine. Every single one of us are hooked on dopamine to where we constantly need something to be happy. And with fasting, it trains you that everything that you need and everything you got is already in here. And that is grounding. That raises awareness, and that raises strength to realize that everything that you're looking for is already here. You don't need all this stuff in your external environment. And fasting shows you that, look, if you can go a day without food, you can pretty much go a day without anything, besides breathing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. So, Will, I guess I have a curiosity question. Do you do any journaling to document your breath work? Or what would that look like from a journaling perspective?
yeah. So especially when I was first doing breath work, now I journal and I write every day something of my intentions or what I'm grateful for, or what I'm working on. I pretty much put my whole brain onto paper. And I do that almost daily. It's actually right next to me here. But as far as like journaling about my breath, I did a lot of that for like the first 2 years that I was doing it. Is I was writing down what my breath holding times were. I was writing down how I felt when I felt really good, how I felt when I felt really bad. When I was doing, like the 30 to 50 max breaths, let it all out, and then do as many push-ups as I can. I was writing all those down, and that raised so much awareness of myself, because I noticed where my mind went when I had really good times. I noticed where my mind went when I had really bad times. And I started just noticing these patterns. So for example, I always had my best meditations and my best breathing sessions when I was present, obviously. You know what I mean? Like, that was one thing that just kept coming up more and more, is the less that I was thinking about later and the less that I was thinking about earlier, the better I could be in that moment and the better my breath holds were. Another thing that would constantly ruin my times or ruin my sessions, in addition to just not being present, is comparing. Anytime I try to compare this session with last session, or if I was breathing with other people, trying to compare myself with their breaths or with their breath holds, the worse that I did. So I just had to focus on myself and focus on that moment. And the better my sessions were. And that just really helped to kind of constantly realign to where, when I was not in my breathing exercises, but I was in my training session, or I was in a conversation, I was taking the same things that I was learning from having my best sessions, from having my best breath hold times, to trying to feel that way during these other times in my life, from doing the dishes, from my training sessions, from my creative outlets to my work. I was just trying to be as present as I possibly can, to not compare, or to not, try to worry about a result. That was another thing that came up time and time again, was anytime I was like, all right, I'm going to hold my breath for 2 minutes, or I'm going to hold my breath for 3 minutes. And that time during that breath hold, I'm thinking about the result. Again, lack of presence. I would run out of air. As soon as I started thinking about the result, I'm running out of air. But the more I could relax, the longer I could hold my breath, the more that I could surrender, relax, and just let things go and don't attach. And like, I started from writing down, I was learning how to manage stress. I was learning how to deal with stressful times. I was learning how to be. That's the beautiful thing about meditation and breath work, is it's a practice of being. You're not, and stillness itself, you're not doing, you're being. And the more that we could stop thinking and stop doing and just being us, I think the better we're going to do.
Awesome. Well, gang, we are a few minutes away from the top of the hour. If there are any last questions, get them in. Will, any parting words you want to say to the crew?
Well, one, just thank you guys so much for showing up. Thank you guys for, watching these videos. Thank you for just having the interest to connect more with yourself and to become better, because like, it's up to us. Like, there's so much craziness going on in the world, and it's up to us to be the best versions of ourselves, not just for us, but for whoever we're around. Every single person that we come in contact with, it's an opportunity to learn, and it's an opportunity to serve. And the more that we can learn from each other, and the more that we can help each other out, the more that we can lift as individuals, the more that we can lift as a species and as a planet. I think, just get outside. Like, get outside and get breathing.
Go pee on a tree.
Go anything to a tree. Like, breathe in the oxygen that they're giving out, because that's the good shit. And close your mouth, because that's one thing I see all the time. And it's the number one breathing tip, and if you want more breathing tips, we're still giving them away on our website, www.thewillgrant.com. I'll leave it in the description below, to get those top 3 breathing tips to feel better, to breathe better, to be better. And the number one thing is just closing that mouth, because when you're breathing through your mouth, everything is compromised, from your brain to your lungs to your heart. Close your mouth, breathe in through the nose, feel good. And you have to remember that it's a practice to feel the way that you want to feel. So first you have to clarify how you want to feel. And then you have to practice feeling that way. There's no outside circumstance that, or job promotion or event that you're going to go to and like, oh, this is it. Now finally I feel the way that I want to feel. You may feel that way for a minute, 5 minutes, an hour, but the next morning you're going to have to do something else. And that comes from that everyday practice of, one, just trying to become better and trying to practice the way that you want to feel and trying to get a little bit better every day, a little bit closer to wherever you're trying to go every single day.
Good point. Jonathan got a question in under the gun. The question for you, Will, is does deep breathing in the day help you get deeper sleep at night? What do you say?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's actually some science to that I don't know off the top of my head, but that book Breath by James Nestor, like get that book because it actually explains a lot of that too. Because there's some I'm not sure if it's serotonin or cortisol, but there's some hormone. Wait, you might know, does cortisol turn into serotonin or serotonin turn into dopamine or something? No, nothing like that. Okay.
No, serotonin and dopamine are balanced in the brain, and usually a lot of mental disturbances are caused by, one being higher than the other one.
Yeah. So a lot of that lack of sleep is being stuck in that monkey brain, and that constant going. And
that's a cortisol issue, the stress hormone. So if you're always in stress during the day, it is much harder for the body to get rid of cortisol at night. Cortisol fluctuates on a circadian rhythm. And if we screw it up by being stressed all the time, we've got high levels during the day that flow into the night. It's not only hard to fall asleep, it's hard to stay asleep.
Which one turns into melatonin?
None of those turn into melatonin.
All right. Okay. I'm off. I'm thinking of something else then. I'm glad you're here to correct me. I'm off on something then, but yeah, there's definitely something to it. And there is some science to it. I don't know it, but I've never claimed to be a scientist. I'm just explaining off of my experience, and what I felt through doing all this stuff is the more balanced your system is and the more balanced your hormones are, the better you're going to sleep and the better you're going to feel. And a few rounds of Wim Hof breathing rebalances your physiology. It rebalances your hormones. It rebalances your chemistry from doing those deep breaths and then doing that breath hold. But you have to understand that breath hold is where the money is. And if you're having trouble sleeping, focus on long exhales. Focus on long exhales or box breathing. And the longer you can extend that exhale, the more it's going to lower your heart rate and relax your system. Long, deep inhales and longer exhales is what's going to lower your heart rate, lower your blood pressure, and calm down your system.
Awesome. Great questions, guys. Well, Will, let's land the plane. What are your final words?
Well, thank you guys so much for showing up. I will leave some really awesome links in the description below. If you want to join in on any more of these conversations, go over to chatwithwillgrant.com, reserve your spot. We're doing these pretty much every single week. And don't forget, if you have not gotten those 3 breathing tips, my top 3 breathing tips on how to breathe better to feel better, don't miss out on those. Like I said, the number 1 tip alone is a complete game changer. Edwin likes number 2, and 3 is a gold nugget as well. So go over to thewillgrant.com, get in those 3 tips. And if you have any questions or if you feel like I can help in any way, leave some comments below, send me a message, send me an email. Let's talk.
Awesome. Any challenge this week, Will?
Get outside and breathe. I want to see photos. I want to see you guys tagging me on social media of you guys just getting outside, breathing in a tree, breathing in a flower. Post a picture of you outside. You don't even have to be in it, just of the tree you're breathing in, and just tag me. I want to see it.
Love it. Will, always a pleasure, my brother. Peace out, my friend.
All right, later, Edwin.